So something I wanted to mention.
Yes.
Goldberg is coming back to the WWE once again for the umpteenth time because he obviously wasn't satisfied with his last
Paycheck?
go around.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yes, paycheck. Yes. And he is going to Super Showdown over in Saudi Arabia to take on the Universal Champion Bray Wyatt, the Fiend.
Mm-hmm.
Now, considering the last time Goldberg was in Saudi Arabia and took on someone with questionable powers, Undertaker.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have any high hopes for this match? Or is this going to be one of those things that just going to crumble and burn and possibly lower the stock of the Universal Champion, who right now is probably one of the few draws that the company has?
I feel if they were going to screw up... I don't think this is going to screw up Bray Wyatt. I'm going to tell you why. Because they've already done enough damage to him at the start that I don't think Goldberg's going to bring him down.
So unless you can't break dust, basically. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying, like, no. I'm just saying, like, you've already put the cracks. I don't think this one's going to hit. I don't think this one is going to hit hard enough to create a bigger crack.
Okay. Fair. But here's the thing. Now, I get that the Saudi Arabia shows, whether it be Super Showdown or Crown Jewel or Greatest Royal Rumble, all these things are pretty much to go ahead and give the gift of WWE to a country, to a whole area of the world that normally doesn't get this stuff live. And I can understand that. You know, there's a wellspring of fandom in a part of the world that they've never really been able to go to, with the exception of the tribute to the troops. And even then, that was for our guys, not their guys. And, you know, politics and money, blood money and everything aside, you can't blame that on the fans that want to see these shows. But the fans, I guess, are getting these shows where it's kind of like, oh, you guys missed out on all these live events from like years gone by, so we're bringing those people back so this way you can get your first taste. I don't necessarily like that idea. No, only because it's dangerous, and there's enough people that have shown that, okay, we've gone ahead, we've done it. We don't have to go back 2 or 3 times every single year now, because it's created more problems than it has.
Well, there's a few things there. First off, the reason they keep going back is because it's a 10-year deal.
Yeah, so they're kind of stuck into it, but,
yes.
You know, obviously there were issues with the deal last year when they went down for Crown Jewel, which, of course, made some people not... Well, no, I don't want to say even missed the boat because it wasn't boats, but they missed the planes. Lord knows they missed the planes.
Well, I'll say this. If I work in New York City, you can say it's probably the biggest target of if there's ever a terrorist attack in our country.
Yes. Been there, done that, unfortunately. If
there's ever a big threat, you know, it's my decision to say to my company, the people I work for, I'm not coming in today. You can fire me for it, but I rather protect my life. And the same thing could be said for these professional wrestlers too. You can evaluate the situation and go, is this job worth me dying for? And that's the decision they make.
And there have been some that have objected to going over, and that's fine. That's perfect. I'm not necessarily saying dangerous in the sense of, you know, whether or not a missile may inexplicably hit someplace it shouldn't. I'm saying it's dangerous for the wrestlers who have been brought back into the fold to still be getting utilized in such a way.
Oh, you're talking about older wrestlers who can't really...
Because, I mean, that's
up to them, too.
Well, there's been this take lately about bringing people back almost from the grave, in a sense.
Well, again,
Daniel Bryan,
remember what
Edge.
I was saying about Birds of Prey, that I'm not their audience. Technically, this show we're not their audience. It's not made for Americans, Canadians, North Americans, etc. It's just made for Saudi Arabia. They put it on the network just because it's like, hey, some people might want to watch this, so here you go. Though, I guess there is some argument to say about that, considering the fact that the Universal title did change at the last show. Mm-hmm. But still, it's like this is what they're asking for, and they're the ones paying the buttload of money to the WWE. So it's like I can kind of understand why they're doing it. These wrestlers don't need to come back. They can evaluate their. Does someone have to go up to them and say, "No, you dumb ass"? I'm trying not to curse on the podcast. I'm limiting myself.
Are we rated? Like, do we have that issue?
We do not have that issue, but they are cracking down on certain things. So I do watch my language a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Fine.
But it's just, hey, they're offering him a ton of money, and these guys are going, all right. Hey, Ric Flair's the one who wanted to die in the ring at one point in his career.
He hasn't yet?
He's not dead yet, but he's come close many times.
I'm starting to think he's more machine than man, to be honest. Like, the amount of blood that comes from his head whenever he cuts, and it's like that crimson mask that comes over him, and his hair goes pink like he's using manic panic. It's just, how is he not?
If you look back at his career, this man was in a helicopter crash and survived.
Careful with the helicopter stuff. We're still in the Kobe instance.
Mm-hmm.
Just careful.
Yeah, I don't care. There's some things, and hey, all I'm saying is Ric Flair survived a helicopter crash. Woo.
Woo. Oh boy, you had to tack on the woo. Why did you tack on the woo?
But anyway, so yeah, we're talking about the Saudi Arabia show. I don't care.
Well, I mean,
it's like I don't care about Bill Goldberg. I don't think it's going to hurt Bray Wyatt. And I'm not going to really watch the show because it's on WWE Network at 3:00 in the afternoon. And
okay, but how do you feel about leading away from Super Showdown, but also staying on the topic of people being brought back from beyond the grave? Edge. Edge coming back at the Royal Rumble last month after having so much spine surgery. It's like it was worse than, I'd say, what Daniel Bryan was afflicted with.
Well, I mean, he's been healing up for 9 years. He's been evaluated by multiple doctors, and everything that they've told him is you can come back. So it's not like they just kept begging Edge for 9 years, come back, Edge, come back, Edge. It was Edge evaluating himself and going, yeah, I could do this. I would like to do one more decent run. And I have, if his doctors are saying it's okay and he thinks he's good enough, because he was the one who was smart enough to go like, man, I shouldn't do this anymore. If he's himself thinking that he can handle this, God bless him. The only thing I think, and I should point out, like I listen to Jim Cornette's podcast once in a while, and he's a terrible individual. I'm just going to start off with saying that. He is a terrible individual.
Not the best person in the world.
The only thing, and I remember someone, I don't remember who said this to me, but someone years ago said to me when he was booking for TNA, it's like, well, at least his storylines make sense. And that's the only thing I gather from him is storylines making sense. Now, why am I bringing this all up? Because the very next night after the Royal Rumble 2 weeks back, Edge comes out at the end of the show, and he's attacked by Randy Orton. Randy Orton kind of comes out there as a friend first, then attacks him with an RKO. Now, what's Edge's problem? He has a bad neck. What does Randy Orton do? He gives him an RKO, which is also known as a 3/4 neck breaker. To do that to Edge and just have Edge laid out flat, and then Randy Orton walk away, that is good enough of a storyline. But you have a man who's already known to have a major problem and everyone's already worried about, and you have to go to the point of pretty much bashing his brains in for 10 minutes with no one wanting to come out to help.
With a concerto, no less.
Yeah. It's just, it's a story that makes no sense.
It's excessive.
Yes.
Almost grossly excessive.
And I moved away from your subject again about professional wrestlers coming back with major injuries. But I just wanted to get that off my chest because this is why I don't really watch professional wrestling on a regular basis anymore. Shit don't make sense. I just cursed.
Ha!
Yeah.
But you're gonna watch WrestleMania anyways, regardless.
So that's the only ones though. I watch Royal Rumble. I watch WrestleMania. I don't really watch Raw. I don't watch SmackDown. I don't really watch the other pay-per-views.
Which is also kind of part of the problem that I feel like they need to go ahead and bring these people back for name recognition because WWE is not doing so well financially lately. I mean, just this past week, the stock dropped to the point where they lost $1 billion.
Well,
A billion.
and that had nothing to do with storylines, and even
No, but I mean, I'm saying
that
about
had
the
to
brand
do-
as a whole, content as a whole.
well, no, and it has nothing to do with the content either. It was all about the people running the company. Basically, I've worked kind of in finance now for like the last 3 years. How does someone who works in TV work in finance? That's for you to figure out.
Well, we already discussed. You have your degree, yes.
Yeah. But basically, what these companies are looking for is the leadership. So it's like, well, the show has sucked for 10 years or so, and it's been making a ton of money over like the last 3 or so. Well, these two people have been in charge of the company, co-presidents. I can't think of their names at the moment.
It was the woman and the guy with the big forehead.
Yes. But apparently they thought they had strong leadership, and as long as they were running the company, that the WWE was something to invest in. And when Vince abruptly fired both of them, like not just one, but both of them, that's when they were like, ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, but even before that, there were still issues because just recently the fourth quarter turnout came out,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows that WWE has been dipping everywhere. You know, that's why they cut back on the house shows.
Yes.
That's why they're talking about possibly going back to pay-per-view for the big events, possibly starting with WrestleMania as early
Well,
as that.
no. The WrestleMania is not going to pay-per-view. They're trying to sell the rights to WrestleMania to Fox to air.
That's another option, but that's not the end-all be-all.
Which if you try to air WrestleMania like it's a Super Bowl, you could make probably a ton of money off of that.
You could, but that's usually the kind of thing where you need, like, I'd say, more lead up than they have now. Because really, at this point, if they go ahead and enact that, they're really just going to have the month of March to build that up.
You know, that one part of me makes it kind of happy to do that because it means that I have to shrink it back down to a 3 to 4 hour show instead of 7 hours. Like you and I were sitting in a bar for WrestleMania, and we sat there from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night, 6 hours actually, watching that damn show. It was way too long.
Could you imagine if we were up at MetLife Stadium like everyone else was?
Oh, yeah, no. I could imagine it because I've done that for WrestleMania 29.
Yes.
But no.
And even then, it wasn't probably as bad. I don't think the show was as long at that time because they even cut off some of the pre-show and just did like, oh, sorry, your match is canceled, so you'll see it on Monday.
No. But stay on point. Like, yeah, I think I would like it to move to Fox because I think the reins will have to be pulled in if they do something like that. Also, I don't want to go back to pay-per-view because I'm not paying $60 for a pay-per-view.
Yeah, but I mean, they'll do what they have to.
I think if they move these shows back to the pay-per-view, they're going to find there's a lot less people watching these shows now because no one really wants to watch them anymore. There's no...
But they'll do what they have to get their money back, unfortunately. And if they're going to do it, people are going to pay for WrestleMania. I'm not saying they're going to pay for Hell in a Cell. I'm not saying they're going to pay for Extreme Rules like that. But if you're going to do it, it's going to be for WrestleMania.
Yeah, they'll do it for WrestleMania and they'll do it for Royal Rumble. Because
even SummerSlam, if they have to.
Maybe SummerSlam. But I mean, like, and Money in the Bank used to be good. I don't think I get too excited for Money in the Bank anymore.
Well, no. The thing with the gimmick matches...
But that's the thing too. It's like, do you think about, like, I used to know the names of all the pay-per-views, and I used to know the main events of all the pay-per-views because every pay-per-view, even though it was once a month, they were exciting. I couldn't tell you anymore what events are going on or who main evented what. None of them appeal to me. I'm not like every fan out there. There are probably people who are still going to buy these events if they go back to pay-per-view, but I could be wrong. You couldn't disagree with me. I don't think that's going to be a majority. I think that's if they go back to pay-per-view, that's when they're going to see how much of their audience they probably lost.
It would be like a bit of a measuring stick, yes. If they go that route. But, I mean, they've got to do something. Because, I mean, the fact that they've already cut down so much, they really need to trim the fat.
Do you think maybe they put themselves in a hole they can't dig themselves out of? I mean, giving every one of these wrestlers, even ones they don't need, 5-year contracts. And in addition to that, Vince McMahon, and I've been told that XFL is separate from the WWE.
That's a whole other issue.
But it's been said that that's going to lose somewhere around $334 million over the next 3 years.
Quite possibly. And considering there's also the legal issue there that they're being sued right now because they believe, or someone believes, that funds from WWE are going to be used for the XFL, which is in technical breach of contract to the stockholders.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing Vince, yeah, he'll pool whatever money he can to make this fever dream of his happen.
So I'm not going to say Vince is going to do anything illegal for that because that's an
Oh,
assumption.
like Vince has never done anything illegal.
He has, but I'm just saying that might be a touch too far. And again, I look at things both fiscally and morally. It's not going to be the worst thing morally he's ever done, but it's not the worst thing fiscal. It's the worst thing fiscally he could ever do because people attack you more for the money than hurting people.
But the thing is, there are more eyes on him now than there were back in like the early 2000s or the 90s.
I guess we'll see because it's just again, someone else said this like how is AEW doing so well against WWE because they're not really putting out a strong product. But the reason is because WWE is also really not putting out a strong product.
Right. Like at this point, you look at like the Wednesday Night War like they were supposed to be having, when it's AEW Dynamite on Turner's network versus USA's NXT,
Mm-hmm.
which some would argue was a better show back when it was just 1 hour on the network.
Yes.
Um,
A lot of people are saying that, actually.
Yeah, to a degree, they're almost like two sides of the same coin, really. You can't say one's really doing better than the other, but the fact is you have an established version of a show with a major brand behind it versus this new upstart, and they're still equal. That's where AEW is really shining. Even if it is technically beating them in the ratings, the real win is that you have these upstarts coming in and they're playing with the big boys, and right now they're on the same field and it's neck and neck. It shouldn't have been neck and neck. WWE, with all of its bluster, can't get past the new kids.
And I don't think they're doing good. This comes from someone who paid a good amount of money to go to All Out and brought my friend along over here.
It was a good show. I did enjoy.
All Out was really good. But I feel like their quality has dipped a lot since then, and I have not really I turned on Wednesday show. This is the first time I've watched Dynamite, actually since it debuted because I haven't had the time, and I turned it off after 20 minutes. I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. They're all over the place. Even the announcers, it's like they're not. None of the announcers are on the same page, which can really throw everything.
JR isn't what JR used to be. I'll say that.
Well, I feel like no one's
got some problems.
I feel like A, he doesn't like the show, and B,
for him it's like Goldberg coming back. It's a paycheck.
I feel like he was more excited coming in, thinking like, oh, it was going to be this show, and I'm going to be a senior advisor. I could do this, and I think now he's looking at it and go like, I don't think they really listen to me.
No, the best announcer they have right now is Excalibur, as far as I'm concerned.
You know what?
He's a nice fresh face, even though he has a mask on.
No, actually, I'm not big. I kind of liked Excalibur at the beginning. I kind of liked Excalibur at the beginning, but as time went on, I kind of getting turned off by him a little bit. I know I'm all over the place, but I'm surprising enough. I kind of like Tony Schiavone. And he's a voice of my childhood because I watched WCW and but everyone gave him flack for being like, oh, you're that lousy WCW announcer, and I'm like, I don't know, but he's side by side with Jim Ross, and he's doing a lot better than Jim Ross.
Right, but now we'll be getting Taz eventually, I'm sure, at some point.
We'll see. I know they hired him, but I don't know if they're actually going to put him in as a commentator. They've just kind of been using behind the scenes.
They also have the second show that they're going to be doing too, so they may be using him for that.
There's so many things that I can say about AEW, but let's save that for next week, and we could do a deep dive on AEW and the world of professional wrestling. But right now, let's go back to this real quick because we got to kind of wrap it up a little bit.
There's a stopwatch.
Yeah.
Right.
So Goldberg and Bray Wyatt. Final thoughts?
To paraphrase any man in a war, I fear for all humanity.
And like most people who have been fearing about war happening in modern times, it's probably not going to happen.
That's I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know how to take that. It's not going to happen. And then when it does,
you take it one day at a time, and when it happens, it happens. There's nothing else you can do about it.
God, what were you on Hiroshima hit? God.
BoJack Horseman, nothing matters.
Until
Anyway.
the bomb drops. Yeah, that's good.
All right.